Chris Merrill in for Broomhead today. KTAR News on air, online, on the KTAR News app. Forget it. I was going to talk about Ozempic. Nobody cares at this point. This is huge news that Matt Gaetz is saying he's out. He does not want to be the Attorney General. I don't believe it. I don't believe that he doesn't want to be the Attorney General. Here's what ends up happening. Remember, he was under investigation, and there were a lot of people saying, oh, he's going to be the head of the very department that was investigating him, the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice determined that through their investigation, there was not enough evidence to pursue charges against Matt Gaetz. In other words, similar to other investigations that we've heard from prosecutors, whether it's the Department of Justice or detectives or anything else, there are two things. One, do you believe somebody did it? Two, can you prove it? All right? So if somebody has an investigation and then they say there isn't enough to bring about charges, that doesn't necessarily mean that the people who are doing the investigating don't believe that the person being investigated didn't do something. It just means they don't believe that they can prove it. On the other hand, we have to be a little bit cautious too, because we, in the jury of public opinion here, in the court of public opinion, we don't want to jump to the conclusion that simply because someone was under investigation means that they did something wrong, or that investigators must believe that someone did something. Not necessarily the case. So we don't know exactly what happened behind closed doors with the Department of Justice, but we know that that was the cloud surrounding Matt Gaetz. There certainly was enough smoke that the House decided to do an ethics investigation into Matt Gaetz and find out if there was something else. Now, before you jump to the conclusion that it was nothing more than a witch hunt, let's remember that the House ethics investigation was launched by the Republicans. Republicans have been in control of the House for a couple of years now, and they're the ones that did this investigation. So the report on Matt Gaetz from the Ethics Committee was supposed to come out in just a couple of weeks. Instead, Trump is elected president, nominates Gaetz for Attorney General. Gaetz then says, okay, you know what? I'm resigning from Congress. So he resigns. Historically speaking, anytime that an ethics investigation is going on, once the target of their investigation is no longer in Congress, be it resignation, be it voted out, be it death, whatever it is, if they're no longer in office, the investigation ceases, and that's it. That would have been the case here, and I think that was the expectation that Matt Gaetz had, that this is going to go away. However, because he has been nominated for a cabinet position, the Senate wanted to know what the Ethics Committee found. And so, had this been a situation where Matt Gaetz took a gig with Truth Social, remember Devin Nunes, the California Republican that left Congress? I'm not saying he was under a cloud of suspicion, but he took a job in the private sector. All right, so he resigned Congress so he could take a job in the private sector. We've seen other representatives do that in the past. That's not unusual. Had this been a situation where Gaetz had stepped away and taken a job in the private sector, this would have been completely gone, swept under the rug. But because he was looking to become the top cop in the country, it's the Senate's job to confirm him. And the Senate, Republicans included, had heard enough rumblings in the halls of Capitol Hill that they wanted to know what in the world is happening right now. So the House committee that was investigating the sexual misconduct allegations, and again, they're merely allegations, continue to be only allegations against former Representative Matt Gaetz, they got records that detailed $10,000 in payments that the former Florida congressman made to two women. These two women were later witnesses in the ethics probe. And the question is, why'd you pay him that money? The documents were being reviewed by the House Ethics Committee. ABC News reported these things. Later, the Washington Post did outline 27 payments that Matt Gaetz made through Venmo and PayPal between 2017 and 2019, totaling just over $10,000 to these two witnesses. Both women who got the money were over the age of 18 when they were being paid. An attorney for the two women said that Gaetz paid the women for sex and that one of his clients witnessed Gaetz having sex with a 17-year-old girl at a party. These are witness statements. Again, there's not been any other evidence there. We don't necessarily know if there's any other corroborating stories or other witnesses that have come forward. We don't know if we found this alleged girl that was 17. I don't want to cast aspersions that Gaetz is somehow definitely guilty. I'm just telling you this is some damning testimony. And it seems a bit bizarre that there's money that's going to them. Were they blackmailing him? Was he the victim of a blackmailing scheme? Or was this hush money that was being paid out? We don't know. And because of those questions, the Senate wanted to know more about what went on with this investigation. If you're a senator, wouldn't you want to know before you said, yeah, let's go ahead and put this guy in charge of the Justice Department? The investigation centered on Gaetz' conduct during an alleged drug-fueled sex parties that he participated in between 2017 and 2020. And I will bring to your attention that there was another representative who was tossed out of the Freedom Caucus and given no consideration and no quarter after he spoke, Madison Cawthorn. You remember Madison Cawthorn? Madison Cawthorn spoke out and said, there is all kinds of crazy stuff happening in the halls. There are a lot of pervies out there, and this is happening. And immediately, they all turned their back on him. He was booted. Come to find out, all this stuff about weird orgies might have been right. He might have been onto something. And now he's no longer looking like the guy who was making things up. He's starting to look like the guy that was trying to blow the whistle, but it seemed that the powers that be were trying to keep him quiet. Again, not saying anybody's guilty, but it's not like the smoke is going away after this investigation comes out. So now I have two questions going forward. First, and most importantly, who's going to be the next nominee for Attorney General? One of the most essential roles in our federal government. Who's going to be the next nominee for that? Two, far less important, but maybe as intriguing, what happens to Matt Gaetz? He just quit his job. So Matt Gaetz is literally unemployed at this point. So when the next unemployment report comes out, just recognize that one of those numbers is Matt Gaetz. They're going to say unemployment.
I was just going to ask, should I include him in that one?
Yes, yes.
Okay, 213,001.
Bingo. You got it.
First Friday of every month it comes out, right?
This is why we rely on Patricia Valencia, because she's going to tell us 213,001 new unemployment claims. Very good.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Catch up on Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast, and click the button in the middle to subscribe.